So the first video that we're going to talk about is probably, I think, one of the most common things that people have misconceptions about when they're doing skincare or foundation application in general. And it's definitely something that I run into with clients in terms of not being able to really understand, I suppose, how to manage their own skin or what products to use. And it's sometimes really hard for makeup artists to identify this when you're doing makeup in such a quick time frame and you can't really identify something thoroughly. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is dry skin, but we're also going to talk about the different skin conditions that potentially associated with that, which is dryness and flakiness.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, for sure. Like Jess said, a huge common misconception with clients and also with artists as well, technicians as well, is the difference between dry skin and dehydrated skin. Basically, it's summed up like this. Dry means lack of oil. Dehydration means lack of water.
Yeah.
That's it, really. So a dehydrated skin will look very crepey. So for example, if you wanted to be able to identify a dehydrated skin, you would have to use the powers of touch. And if I could touch Jess, you just would sort of give
my face
the skin a little bit of a squeeze, just a tiny little pinch, tiny little squeeze, and you would basically see what looks like crepe paper. With a dry skin, you're probably more prone to the deeper wrinkles, but you also get flakiness in patches, localized patches about the skin as well.
Yeah. And I think when you're doing makeup, a lot of the time, if you're unsure about the difference between the two, it does really drastically impact your skincare and priming and foundation application choices.
Definitely.
So I think in terms of priming products for dehydrated and dry skin, these days there are so many products on the market, and a lot of the time with priming products, the whole concept of a primer is to create a barrier between the face and the foundation, which a lot of the time is more talking about the way that oil can impact whatever you're putting on top of it. With dehydrated and dry skin, there is no oil to impact the application. So it's really kind of about using alternative products and prepping the skin or priming the skin in a non-traditional way.
Yes.
That will help their makeup stay on longer and will help with longevity. So when I have clients that present with dry skin or what looks like to be dehydrated skin, I'm really making sure that I'm either using a hydrating primer that's purposely for that type of skin, or I'm using serums that absorb into the skin quickly with a concentrated kind of moisturizer on top. Because what that's going to do is it gives the skin an extra layer of hydration, and it means that whatever you put on top of it is going to last longer. Because if you think about it, if you put like a normal traditional primer that maybe has silica in it, so that's an ingredient that absorbs oil, and then you put a matte foundation on top, which is very popular at the moment, so regardless of skin type, a lot of people request it. If you put those combination on dry skin, what's going to happen is the skin tries to absorb the moisture out of the product, and there is no moisture, and that's what breaks the foundation down. So it's really about having that consultation with your client initially to kind of discover what their skin is like so you can choose the right products. So dehydrated and dry skin, make sure you're using a really hydrating primer or a serum and a moisturizer to give that extra layer of hydration.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
And
I was just going to say, as well with your foundation and your concealer choices, making sure that you are, even if they want to have matte skin, that you're using hydrating foundation and then potentially like a mineral or like a loose powder, some type of powder that's formulated that sits a little bit nicer on dry skin, which can still create that more matte effect to the skin, but their skin is still going to last and it's not going to break down on that type of skin.
Exactly. Yeah. So just out of interest, as a makeup artist, if somebody did present with dry flakiness and they wanted you to do a flawless, beautiful textured makeup, what would you do? What would you use?
I think the two main things that I do when someone tells me their skin is a little bit more dry is, number one, I will see if their skin's slightly flaky. If there's anything that is going to look more textured initially when you put anything on the skin. So products like softening lotions work really, really well when someone is presenting with flakiness in the skin, because we can't exfoliate the skin on the spot. It's not really realistic when you're doing an hour makeup application or an hour and a half or whatever it is.
Yeah, good luck getting those little bits of silica off the skin as well.
Yeah, so usually what I do is get 2 cotton pads and smash softening lotion, or like anything that's like formulated in a lotion form that's going to hydrate and absorb into the skin quickly to kind of almost tone and dissolve that flaky skin. So what I'll do, depending on the level of flakiness, I will massage that product into the skin on cotton pads. If they're excessively flaky, what I'll do is actually leave the cotton pads sitting on the skin while I'm doing other elements of the makeup, and then come back to it after and then put the skincare on. So you know that way when you're using something like a softening lotion, whatever product you put on top is then going to absorb into the skin more so than if you were just putting moisturizer on the skin.
Yeah.
Because you would say this as a beauty therapist, you can't hydrate flaky skin.
No.
It just comes off.
Yeah.
So you really need to deal with that problem first before you start loading hydration on top, because if anything, it'll probably just sit on the surface of the skin and it's going to kind of make your foundation slip and slide regardless of if they're dry or not. It's not going to absorb. So it's really important to deal with that first.
Definitely.
And then the second thing that I do, if they're not excessively flaky but they've told me they're dry, a lot of the time what I do is I will do all their skincare first, go to their eyes, their brows, do the rest of their face, and see how much of the skincare products have actually absorbed into the skin before I go in with foundation.
Yeah.
Because then I might add like an extra layer of hydration again before I go in with the foundation. Well, I hope that helped you guys just to kind of get a little bit more clarification on those different types of, you know, elements of the skin. So stay tuned for the next video, because we're going to talk about the next element or skincare, skin type condition that can impact the makeup. So we'll see you guys soon.